Hi, this is Troy. This series of videos is going to help you with some of the mathematical calculations that you're needing for your electronics class. One of the first things that we want to realize is that whenever we're working with these values and we're doing these conversions, it's really not that difficult. It can seem that way. It can seem a little bit overwhelming at first, but it's really pretty simple. Let me use a couple of quick examples to show you what it is that we're trying to do when we're doing these conversions. Say my pickup's out of fuel and I need to fill it up. Well, I know that the tank on my pickup will hold 16 gallons. And that's how we usually talk about fuel, is we measure it in gallons. I could also say, though, probably wouldn't because it would seem a little bit weird, but I could say it's going to take 128 pints to fill up my pickup. Now, what I have done there is I have expressed the same value in two different ways. The first time I was measuring in gallons, I needed 16 of those. The second time I was measuring in pints, I needed 128 of those. But it's the same amount of fuel that we're talking about, we're just measuring it differently. Same thing with the conversions that you're going to be doing. As another quick example, same principle. Suppose I'm going to get a little candy bar that's going to cost me 80 cents. I could do that by paying with 8 dimes. I could also pay for that with 80 pennies. And we know that I could have some other combination of change that's going to give me the same amount. But again, we're expressing the same values in two different ways. One time we're measuring with dimes, the second time we're measuring with pennies. So we understand that we can measure things in different ways, and we're going to have different values associated with those things based on what it is that we're measuring with. But one thing that is in common between these, and it's really important for you to notice that when I'm talking about the fuel for my pickup, I went from a larger measurement to a smaller measurement, and when I did that, the number got bigger. So if I'm using a smaller unit to measure in, I'm using a pint measuring cup instead of a gallon jug, then I'm going to need more of them. The number is going to have to get bigger as my measurement unit gets smaller. And then the opposite is going to be true as well. If I go from a small unit of measure to a larger unit of measure, the number of them that I need is going to be smaller. And it's the same way with the money. If I go from dimes to pennies, I'm going from a larger unit of currency down to a smaller unit of currency. And when I go from a larger unit to a smaller unit, the number of them that I need is going to be bigger. Now, it's a little bit weird because as we're thinking about this, there's a difference of magnitude. The difference between gallons and pints, there's 8 pints in a gallon, is different from the difference of magnitude between dimes and pennies. There's 10 pennies in a dime. So those differences of magnitude throw it off a little bit as far as just saying, well, this is easy with the numbers. It's actually going to be really easy when we start talking about the electronics units. But the principle here is going to be exactly the same for the conversions that we're doing in electronics. If I go from a larger unit of measure to a smaller unit of measure, the number of them is going to be bigger. And if I go from a smaller unit of measure to a larger unit of measure, the number is going to get smaller. That's the key principle that you want to keep in mind, and that's going to help us as we start doing these conversions of units that you're going to be dealing with: volts, watts, amps, ohms, all of those other things that you'll be dealing with.